Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. FPL Consult here. Today we're going to take a look at my Game Week 6 transfer plan. So I have 2 free transfers now in Game Week 6, 3.6 million in the bank, so that's loads of money, and there's so many players in my team right now that I'm unhappy with. I can choose to remove so many different players. I can also bring in a couple of different players that I'm looking at right now. So I'll discuss all of them in this video. Hopefully you guys do enjoy this one. And just before we jump into it, we have just hit 5,000 subscribers just before I started recording this video, so it's a good time for me to just take a little minute or two to just thank you guys for all the support that you've shown the channel so far from the time we started 2 years ago until today. I'm so happy that we hit 5,000 subscribers, and you couldn't have done it without every single one of you guys just watching the videos, liking, commenting, and of course subscribing as well. So I'm really thankful, and I will continue to put out content, and hopefully you guys enjoy the content on this channel. The road to 10,000 subscribers starts today. Alright, so we're gonna start off jumping straight into this video with my current chip strategy. So the reason why I thought it's important for me to articulate my chip strategy now is because most of my transfers moving forward will be dependent on my chip strategy. So I think this will be relevant for those of you guys who are looking to wildcard around the same time period as me, which is around game week 8 to game week 10. For the time being, I'm looking at a game week 10 wildcard. But the reason why it would be relevant for this particular video is because of the fact that if I'm going to wildcard in game week 10, most of my transfers leading up for the next couple of game weeks will just have to take care of my team until game week 9. Thereafter, I will have the wild card to kind of adjust my team moving forward from there, and just basically switch up all the players. So from now until game week 9, it's kind of a situation where I just have to maximize every single game week and get the most points as I can. Of course, there's a double in game week 7 that I have to take in mind as well. But in general, I can dead end my team now in game week 9 until game week 9 and wildcard in game week 10. So my transfers will be slightly more aggressive, and that's kind of why I just want to spend a bit of time to talk about this game week 10 wildcard and why I've decided to go for it as well. So the reason why I'm leaning towards a game week 10 wildcard, which is applicable to my team, it may not be applicable to yours. So do a little bit of forward planning and take a look at the fixture swings. But for the time being, I don't have any Liverpool or Aston Villa assets. And moving forward, especially from game week 8 onwards, Liverpool and Aston Villa have really good fixtures. If I wildcard in game week 10, I can bring them in for their fixture swings. Next, it also allows me to get Salah for the Liverpool fixture swing. Now, Salah is a very important player moving forward. Those of you guys who do have him already are slightly ahead of the curve. For my particular team, I will have to make a couple of transfers and maybe even take a hit or two in game week 10 if I don't use the wild card and I want to bring Salah into my team. So the restructuring will take quite a couple of transfers, so I think it will just make sense for me to use the wild card instead. Now, one of the other major reasons is because Spurs do have great fixtures in game week 8 and game week 9 specifically, right? So they play Luton and they play Fulham. Those are game weeks I want to have triple Tottenham, Udogie, Maddison, and Son definitely on my mind right now. In my team currently, I only have Udogie, but I'm looking to bring in both Maddison and Son for game week 8 and game week 9. So this would leave me with triple Spurs, and come game week 10 onwards, Spurs fixtures don't really look that good at all, right? So if I wildcard in game week 10, I can basically take advantage of the 2 Spurs fixtures, which are really good in 8 and 9, and then just offload all of the Spurs assets on the wildcard. Now, next, I also have 3 Chelsea players right now. I have Chilwell, Colwell, and also Jackson. I can remove all of them on a wildcard 10, right? So maybe towards the end of, maybe towards game week 8 or game week 9, I already only have 2 Chelsea players remaining, because already now in game week 6, I'm looking to sell some Chelsea players. But I think I would at least have 2 Chelsea players by the time I come to game week 10, in which case I can remove both of them on the wild card. Now, of course, I've just mentioned that I can dead end my team into game week 9, and that also means I can be more aggressive with my transfers. For example, getting Morris in game week, double game week 7 for the Luton double as well. Now, of course, there are other side benefits of the game week 10 wild card, but I've just slotted these two pointers towards the bottom of this particular slide right here, because these are slightly less important factors, but I think still benefits of using the wildcard in game week 10, which is that it's post international break. So basically the international break between game week 8 and game week 9 would have passed. I would have known which players are injured and what the template is shifting towards, and whether I can go for some differentials with their fitness and how they're looking like in coming back from the international break as well. Right, so that's also a plus point. And of course, swapping out my fringe players, I have Osula right now as my 4.5 million forward, not great at all. I have Turner as well. Turner is likely to lose his spot to Vlachodimos soon, so he's also a player I can swap out. So for the time being, I'm pretty set on a game week 10 wildcard. Of course, that can change depending on injuries, depending on the form of players, etc. that we take a look at. Already now in game week 6, there are a lot of us considering the game week 6 wildcard when we didn't even plan to do it in the first place. So a lot of things can happen, but for the time being, my transfers would center around a game week 10 wildcard. So let's take a look at the team now without any transfers being made. So this is my team for game week 6 without any transfers made. As I mentioned, 3.6 million in the bank and 2 free transfers. Now, taking a look at this team, there are a couple of problem areas. So let's start off in goal. Now, of course, I'm not going to make a keeper transfer this game week when Onana has Burnley away, but Manchester United just looks so poor defensively right now that I'm honestly not expecting so much. But at the end of the day, it is Burnley away, so I am hoping that at least Manchester United can keep a clean sheet against a club that just promoted from the Championship. Right, so not going to make a keeper transfer. In the back line, I have Estupiñán, Caldwell, and Chilwell. Now, Estupiñán plays Bournemouth at home. I'm not too worried that even though he missed out in game week 5, it was mostly due to the coming back from international break pretty late, right? And that's why De Zerbi left him out. He already did mention in the press conferences before the Brighton game that Estupiñán had returned quite late, so his benching or his omission from the squad even, right, wasn't a surprise to me. I think game week 6 he'll come straight back in, so I don't foresee that as an issue. Bournemouth at home will be a plum fixture for him, so he's fine. For Caldwell and Chilwell, this is where it gets slightly tricky because they play Aston Villa at home, so already it's not that great of a fixture because Aston Villa have been looking pretty good in attack. So I'm not too confident of the clean sheet there, coupled with the way Chelsea are playing defensively. It's not too convincing as well, right? And Caldwell and Chilwell for the time being seemed to be sharing a particular position, which is left back in game week 5. Now, Chilwell could, of course, feature together with Caldwell, as we saw in the first 4 game weeks where Caldwell played in the back 3 and Chilwell ventured further forward, kind of like a left wing, right? But his comments, Pochettino's comments in the game week 5 pre-match press conference kind of said that they wanted to start with Mudryk so that there was a more attacking player. But it seems it's possible that against Aston Villa, they'll want Chilwell back in, right, to kind of balance it where there's a little bit of defensive cover from Chilwell's kind of defensive abilities and also attacking prowess going forward as well. So I actually do think that Chilwell may come back into the side for this Chelsea team against Aston Villa, and I think he'll start. For Caldwell, I think it's a little bit more tricky. I'm not so sure whether if Chilwell starts, Caldwell will continue to start. I think for the time being, I'm pretty confident both will start in game week 6. So they may not be issues, but once again, I don't really like doubling up. So this is where one of the transfers can come in, where Caldwell or Chilwell to a Newcastle defender, either Fabian Schär or Botman, is likely on the cards, and that's likely to be one of the free transfers there. In midfield, I have Saka, Mbeumo, Foden, Rashford, and Eze. So straight up, I'm probably not going to sell any of the 4 midfielders aside from Foden, right? So Saka, Mbeumo, Rashford, and Eze, they all have plum fixtures. I'm not going to sell any of them. For Foden, of course, he came off against West Ham in the 61st or 60th minute around there, right? So that's already not a great sign, but he wasn't really getting much joy, in the game. So I think that's possibly why they took him out. Looking at Man City's fixtures moving forward as well, it is quite a tight fixture crunch. So we'll see whether Foden starts against Nottingham Forest, because we will get some leaks, and depending on whether he starts, I think it will affect my transfers, because obviously if he doesn't start, I'll have to spend a transfer to remove him, and then I'll have to look at a couple of midfielders that I want to bring in. So that will be dependent on team leaks. I'll share with you guys some of the plans that I have currently dealing with whether he starts or not, and I'll talk about that later in the transfer tinkering section, right? So he's a player that I'm thinking about. He may be someone that I may remove depending on team leaks. Now up front, there's Erling Haaland, definitely going to be my captain against Nottingham Forest at home, and there's Jackson, who is also another problem here, because Jackson has been misfiring every single game week, aside from the Luton game where he scored 1 goal. But aside from that, he's been getting, aside from the Luton game, actually, he's been getting 1 point per game in the other 4 matches, and he has 4 yellow cards as well, right? So he's actually 1 booking away from suspension, which is just ridiculous, right? So Jackson has just been very disappointing. Going for him instead of Alvarez kind of swung the points a lot. I think it's 26 points for Alvarez since game week 3, and for Jackson I think it's only 9. So that's a huge fixture swing. For those of you guys who went for Alvarez, kudos to you guys, you did really well there. I'm stuck with Jackson here, and there's every possibility that I remove him for Alvarez if we get early team news that Alvarez starts. So for the time being, I'll move us into the transfer tinkering section in a bit, but for the bench, it's Turner, Udogi, Kabore, Osula. I plan to not start any of them, right? And I'll probably make some changes to my starting 11 if any of them misses out, right? So let's take a look now at the transfer tinkering tool by Fantasy Football Hub and play around with my team, show you guys some potential transfers I'm lining up. So this is my team on the Fantasy Football Hub transfer planner. It's exactly as I shown in the graphic just now, and I have 2 free transfers, 3.6 million in the bank. I'm likely going to use both of my transfers. So the first one is likely to be a defensive transfer, as I mentioned just now. So it'll either be Chilwell or Colwell for a Newcastle defender. Now the reason why I'm not considering Kieran Trippier is because he'll be too expensive later on come game week 8 and game week 9, when I want Son and Maddison. I won't be able to afford them if I go for Kieran Trippier. And of course, I think Kieran Trippier is at higher risk of being rotated as compared to Shah and Botman, right? So it'll be either Chilwell or Colwell. Obviously I'll wait for the press conferences on what Pochettino says, and ideally I would want to sell Colwell if I get assurance that Chilwell starts, right? That's really a tongue twister, but assuming I'm confident that Chilwell starts, I'm gonna sell Colwell, which is part of the plan already, and I'll remove him, and I'll probably bring in Botman, because I actually think Botman's performances in recent games, especially the Game Week 5 game, he's been getting in more advanced positions than Fabian Schär actually. So this season, Botman seems to be more attacking, and his baseline bonus points is better as well. He's also 0.5 million cheaper. So for the time being, it's Botman ahead of Schär for me. So this is one free transfer that I'm looking at. The other free transfer can range from a couple of different options here. So the obvious one I think that I'm considering right now is Jackson out for Julian Alvarez. Obviously, this would be dependent on team leaks, whether we get news that Alvarez starts, and of course, I'll need Foden to start as well, because he's in my starting 11 as well. So this is one of the moves that I think I'm leaning towards as well. This, double change of Botman in and Alvarez in ideally is what I want to do. But let's say Foden doesn't start, right? Then I don't think I can go for Alvarez, right? So I'll bring Jackson back in again. I think I will still make the defensive transfer for Colwell out and Botman in, because I really don't want to double up on the Chelsea defense against Aston Villa at home, right? So that kind of leaves me with having to be stuck with Jackson, right? Which may not be the worst thing, because after that he has Fulham away and then he has Burnley away. Potentially he may miss out if he gets a booking against Aston Villa or against Fulham, right? He'll miss out the next game, so that may be a problem as well. It's also something that I'm thinking about, but I will be stuck with Jackson if I have to remove Phil Foden, right? So honestly, if I remove Phil Foden, there aren't a lot of good options. I could move earlier for Maddison, but he has Arsenal away, so not great as well. I could even move for Son as well, right? Depending on whether we get news from Postecoglou that Son could start in number 9, but at the way things are going, it seems like Richarlison will slot straight back into the team. So there's a lot of different ways I could go, and it would largely actually depend on team leaks, right? Hopefully we get some news of whether on the Man City lineup, because the Man City team is the one that is going to be the one we're focusing on a lot, because it's one of the early kickoffs out of 3 games, right? So as I've mentioned, depending on whether Foden starts, whether Alvarez starts, and of course some news around the Chelsea assets as well, this is where my transfers would likely range. But of course, ideally, what I want to do and what I'm leaning towards is, of course, keeping Foden. Hopefully he starts, Botman in for Colwell, and then Jackson out for Alvarez. This would ideally be my set of 2 transfers that I'm leaning towards. So let me know what you guys think. If I could go into Game Week 6 with this team, I think it looks really, really strong, right? Loads of great fixtures all around, and these are players that I think could really fire as well. So Game Week 5 was honestly, it feels like a blip, right? Loads of unexpected results and players that are very low owned that returned. So I think it's just a game week that we just quickly forget about and move forward. So in Game Week 6, if I go into Game Week 6 with this team, I think I'll be pretty happy. So let me know what you guys think of my transfer plans and what you guys are planning as well. Are you going to bring in Alvarez? Are you going to sell Jackson? Let me know what you guys think. And of course, once again, thank you so much for 5,000 subscribers. I really, really appreciate it. And of course, I'll catch you guys in more Game Week 6 content very, very soon. Bye-bye.